Call to order the September 9th CFPUA board meeting. Looks like everyone is here now. And we have a quorum present. First item is adoption of the agenda, which is before you. We have a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Rob Zappel.
Second, Bill Norris.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, next we have the approval of the minutes from our August meeting. Mr. Hackney.
The August meeting minutes from your package need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve, Bill.
Second, Rob Zappel.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, public comments. Donna, do we have any speakers today?
No, sir.
No updates from last.
No, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is the consent agenda. We have 8 items on the consent agenda. Open it to discussion or a motion to approve.
Can I just ask a question about number 1?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Gray.
The memorandum of understanding with Health and Human Services. The limit here is 1 payment per 12-month period. Is that our restriction or is that Health and Human Services?
The 1 payment for CFPUA exists, is that our limit or Health and Human Services?
Can't hear an answer.
We can't hear.
That's,
We're getting an answer.
this is Jim. That was a policy that we had instituted here at CFPUA. That way with the funds would go farther in terms of helping more people get that one-time assistance.
So it's our policy. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I guess my concern is with the current situation, I can see people having problems for several times during a year and just wondering if it's a little harsh. But I guess with limited funds, you have to spread it around.
That was the thinking, and certainly we can revisit that part of the program or any part of the program moving forward.
Who was that talking about?
That was Jim.
Okay, thank you.
Motion, this is Bill. Motion to move the consent agenda.
Second, Jennifer.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right, moving along to new business. Our attorney's report, Ms. Miles.
I don't have a report, but I would like to go into closed session to discuss and give the board advice on the Department of Environmental Quality versus Chemours and a personnel matter.
Thank you. Director's report, Mr. Fleckner.
Thank you. The key indicators, environmental and safety report are in the packet, beginning on page 73. And the customer service update is there as well. And staff and I would be glad to answer any questions the board may have.
Mr. Chair, or Jim, it's Rob Zappel. Jim, on the key indicator reports, 2 questions. One on page 75 under the safety issue. The second is about the South Side wastewater plant flows on page 89.
Okay.
On page 75, excuse me, I'm just trying to dig it out. In the safety report, I see we had in the month of August 4 accidents and 3 personal injuries. I saw some of the details on it. Could you expand on that? And is this a systemic thing, which I doubt, but I just would like to assure everybody that we're not into we've done so well for the last 12 months. What happened?
Well, sure. My preliminary review didn't show any common thread among the incidents that would suggest they were in any way connected. We do have a thorough review of each accident, whether it's property or personal or both that had injury, and that review is underway. And if there are any changes or any lessons that can be learned as part of that process, we certainly take that very seriously. But I didn't, in my initial review, see anything that suggested that they were in any way linked in these accidents. We push safety with our staff every week. It's a big part of what we do, obviously, given the risk that our staff can face in the field and at the plants and elsewhere. So we certainly share your concern, and we'll make sure that we address these any way that we can.
It looked as though a number of the injuries and at least one of the accidents involved it looked like another vehicle hitting one of our repair vehicles, if I got that right, or like it hit it in the door or something. Do I have that correct, Jim?
And that was my understanding. We haven't completed our review, so I don't have the details in front of me. But my understanding that the other driver was at fault. Unfortunately, sometimes given traffic in town, that happens. We have a lot of vehicles on the road, but we encourage our people to drive defensively, make sure that they're trained and that they do everything they can to keep themselves and our community safe.
Thank you. The second issue on the wastewater plant flows on the south side, what caught my eye is the daily peak, but really it was the average for August at 8.67 million gallons per day. And the fact that it's the highest average that we've seen in the last 12 months. Is there an overriding reason behind that, or could you fill in some of the gaps?
Typically, when we see fluctuations like that, it's from rain, where we have infiltration and inflow into the system. And as the groundwater gets saturated, the ground gets saturated, as we've seen, we see that happen over a long period of time, and then that can push those numbers up. And we'll see, hopefully, as we move into drier times, that number will trend downward. But typically on the monthly average flow, that's usually driven by rainwater through I&I.
So it's not a reason for concern at this point.
No, we'll continue to monitor it. And when we get spikes like this, it's also an opportunity to find where I&I is occurring. We've done a very good job over the last few years of identifying I&I in the south side sewer shed and stopping a lot of it. Obviously, it still occurs, but that's something that we will continue to look into with our Find It, Fix It program.
Thanks, Jim. That completes my questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Rob. If no more comments, we'll go to committee reports. The executive committee met on September 2nd. The minutes are in your packet. Finance committee, Ms. Adams.
Yes, so the Finance Committee met for our regular meeting on September 2nd. Those minutes are in the packet as well. And Mr. McLean will have a monthly financial update.
Morning. Okay, so just wanted to take everyone through. This is our look at our summary statement of revenues and expenditures. This is as of the end of July, so 1 month through the fiscal year. You can see that there's a pretty large excess of revenues over expenditures on line 12. On the operating side of things, and that's just really a kind of a timing issue. We have a large debt service payment on August 1st to the tune of about 12 or $13 million that'll drive this number down. I mentioned that because we are we took in the development of the FY21 budget a critical look to try to be as close as possible to those different revenue drivers and that were incorporated and assumed in the budget to really try to get that crystal ball out so we could be as close as possible to try to minimize any surpluses. So I want to take you through this slide right here. This is our rate revenue variance analysis. As you can see, we are under where we thought we would be 1 month through the fiscal year on each of the water and wastewater volume and fixed charge revenues. And that is due solely to the number of ERUs being below where we assumed for the entire year. Now, the number of ERUs that are assumed in the budget is really a time-weighted average of the ERUs we expect throughout the year. And since we're early in the year, this is not really of concern. We're projecting growth throughout the rest of the year, and so these numbers should come up. And you can see as well that excuse me, let me go back one, that our water consumption and wastewater usage on a per ERU basis is pretty close, but slightly above where we assumed. So from a revenue standpoint, I feel good, with where we're at, and we'll continue to monitor and report back. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
John, it's Larry Sneeden. I'm seeing, it looks like we're projecting a growth in ERUs of about 10% for the year. Is that normal?
No, our ERUs that we, the growth in our ERUs that we projected was about, I believe it was about 2.5% on the wastewater side and about 2.7 on the water side. Now that's compared to the actual number of ERUs that we experienced last year. So are you getting the 10% from comparing the actuals that you're seeing?
Yeah.
Okay, right. So what that comparison is it's so we assumed that right for the year that on average we would have 93.3 thousand and 89.8 or so thousand on the wastewater side. You're exactly right that that the 84,000 and the 80,000 that you're actually seeing, that is actually what we've experienced 1 month through the year. Now, remember that we're on a bi-monthly billing cycle, and some of our larger ERU customers are billed in the even months. So this doesn't reflect those. So that's part of it. And I would say that's the largest part of it there. So right, this is all just kind of a function of timing of bills, that our larger ERU customers are weighted in those even months.
Okay, so our actual ERUs at this point in time are somewhere between the 84 and the 93. Is that right?
That's right. Correct.
All right. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions on the board?
Thank you.
We'll move on to Sustainability Committee. Dr. Cannon.
Yep. Good morning, everybody. So we have an interesting pilot program to discuss today. The Sustainability Committee met at our regular scheduled meeting, and then we actually met again a week later to make sure that we had our questions answered and sort of massaged this proposal as much as we could. I want to thank Jim and the staff for being very creative and very thoughtful. Obviously, we are in unprecedented times. I know people might have some questions about this project, so I think I'll just turn it over to Jim. The committee meeting minutes are in your packet, and if you could tell us about this project, Jim, thanks so much.
Thank you. Utilities like CFPUA are always trying to balance that need for our policy that addresses collection efforts, policy that considers the needs of our customers in terms of water and the role that plays,
and also a responsible fiscal policy that makes sure that our organization is sustainable and that we're generating enough revenue to pay for our expenses. Historically, we and many other utilities have used disconnection of service as a way to encourage people who have fallen behind on their accounts to get them current. And obviously, when you're talking about water service, there are a whole host of issues that can arise when a customer loses that service. So the question that we were dealing with and discussing with the Sustainability Committee from a public policy perspective is the best way to encourage payment through disconnection, or is there another way that we can work with our customers in our community to keep them in a level of water to sustain their households without disconnecting them, but still encouraging the payment so that we get the revenues we need to cover our expenses throughout the year. And it goes without saying that the role that water plays in our lives is vital from a public health, a hygiene, sanitation perspective, and that's only become more apparent as we've dealt with the ongoing pandemic, with the guidance we're getting toward washing our hands, toward keeping things clean. So the discussion came to the committee out of a program that a staff member, Eric Hatcher, identified in Phoenix, where instead of disconnecting customers, they simply reduced the flow of water to those homes so that they could get a basic amount of water to wash their hands, to drink, to flush, potentially bathe. Showering would be difficult, and keep them in that level of service without disconnecting them. It's done with a simple little washer, and we have some photos that we'll get to in a second, that goes between the meter and the service line to the house. And it's a very simple device. It's very easy. It's a low-cost strategy to encourage people to pay while keeping them in enough water while they're sorting out their account issues. And that's what we'd like to talk about this morning. We do know disconnecting water service is a very effective way to encourage people to get their accounts current. Obviously, if you lose the service, we've all experienced losing power, and water is no different. It changes the way that you live in your home pretty radically. And this affects mostly residential accounts. We have very few commercial accounts that fall behind. So mostly we're talking about our people's homes here. And that basic need for drinking, cooking, hygiene, sanitation can go unmet in a home if they don't have basic water services. When the pandemic began, Roy Cooper, the governor, issued an executive order number 124 that prohibited utilities from using disconnections, not just for water, but for power and other utilities to encourage payment and have people get their accounts up to date. That expired in July. We have not begun disconnections again because we wanted to have this discussion with the committees and with the board about, from our perspective in our community, is there a better way to address that and work with our customers to help them bring their accounts up to date? So the recommendation that we'll be discussing this morning has several parts. First is resuming disconnections for non-commercial accounts this month, and obviously there'll be a process of notifying those customers, giving them time to get their accounts current before we would do a disconnection on a commercial property. We would continue the suspension of disconnections on our residential customers through this calendar year. I think it's important to communicate what this program is about, how it works. It also gives us a chance to get through the holidays in November and December and give people a chance to get their accounts current before we begin this. So we think the timing of it, from the communication and just a logistics perspective, makes a lot of sense to push that into next calendar year. And this picture shows what the flow restrictor looks like. It's about the size of a washer. It has a hole in the center that's about 1 to 1.3 millimeters in diameter. So it's very small, a very small hole in it. We had some prototypes made up at a local machine shop. Some of our meter folks took that on. We took them to some of our employees' homes and put them in place so we could see how it actually performed. What was it like in the home when that flow restrictor was in place? And they are very effective at reducing flow. So we think, and we've got some videos we'll show you in the next slide that shows exactly how they work. But it's a very simple solution. It's just a washer that goes in and limits how much water a customer can get. A little bit of context. In 2019, we had about 8,800 disconnects. The vast majority of those were residential accounts. That's about 170 per week. And you can see 6,400 or so were different customers. So we had some customers that were disconnected multiple times in a year. The vast majority, 90%, brought their accounts current or got on a payment program within 10 days. The concern is what happens during those 10 days and what happens to the accounts that aren't current during those 10 days or without water. And we're looking for a better way to hopefully get that same level of accounts being current without having the same level of impact to the customers themselves. And the vast majority were residential, less than 5% were commercial accounts. That's what we're focused on here, is understanding and sorting through the issues facing families and people in their homes. On the left, and we'll see if the video is going to work for us. On the right, you can see that's with the flow restrictor. On the left is without it. And this is in the kitchen of one of our employees' home. On the left, it fills up just like you'd expect. On the right, it takes a lot longer to fill a glass of water. This was on the first floor of the home. Obviously, as you go up in elevation, you'll see that pressure drop a little bit, but it was less than I was expecting when we saw it. Typical home has between 5 and 25 gallons per minute being delivered from the utility. Many factors will affect that: the pressure in our system, the distance from the home to the street, the size of the service line, the condition of the service line. So a lot of things will go into what is the actual flow that a customer is seeing. What we're targeting with this program is between 1/2 and 1 gallon per minute. So enough that you can fill a glass of water, you can wash your hands, the toilet will refill itself, you can potentially fill a bathtub. But things such as a shower, a clothes washing machine, irrigation systems wouldn't work at that level of flow. And this map shows the distribution in calendar year 19 of where we had residential disconnections. As you can see, they're spread around throughout our service area. So this is something that affects every part of our customer base. So the pilot program that we're recommending would be for residential properties only. We would suspend the $55 delinquency fee that's applied to accounts under the theory that if they're already falling behind on their payments, adding a $55 fee because they've fallen behind just compounds that problem. And any costs associated for us with this pilot program would just be rolled into the cost of doing business without attaching another fee to customers who are struggling to pay their programs. We have about 4,200 residential accounts right now that would be eligible for disconnection or the flow restriction program. Obviously, when we roll this out, we're not going to get to all of those at one time. We would start with the oldest accounts first and work our way through. And we're hoping that as this program is publicized and people understand it, that will encourage them to get their accounts back current with us, and they won't need to be by their flow restrictor. The pilot program is a very good idea. It gives us a chance to gather data on how effective these restrictors are, how the customers respond, how they perform over time. But during the program, the customers would still pay for the water that they consume, And they would also pay for the base charge for their meter, which they pay now if they're disconnected. They would continue to pay for the services they get, but they would just be reduced services in terms of pressure and flow. Communication is a big part of this. Obviously, Vaughn and Cami will be working diligently to communicate to our customers through the media, through customer service and other means to get the word out to folks. We also need to understand, can the flow restrictors be installed at all locations? Is there enough room when we disconnect the meter and drop that washer in to put gaskets on either side and reconnect the meter? So some things we need to sort through. Pilot program gives us a chance to do all these things. I think it will also be very interesting to see how the customers respond. How does the payment process work in terms of time? If we know it's very effective by disconnecting people, how quickly are they motivated to get their accounts current with the flow restrictor? So I think some of that data will also help us improve the program as we go and help with our communications as well. And the communication program in terms of dealing directly with a customer who would be subject to the restrictor, we would continue to send them notices by mail, phone calls. We leave door hangers if we go out to do work at their homes. We would certainly put information on the website and work with the media. Our goal is not to disconnect service or reduce service for people. Our goal is to work with them together to get their accounts current. And we think that this is an opportunity for all of us to collectively do that. So our next steps. First would be to resume disconnections for non-residential customers. So restaurants, other businesses that have fallen behind, we believe should bring their accounts current. There are about 290 non-residential accounts currently that would be eligible for disconnection. Their outstanding balance is about $333,000, or about $1,150 per account on average. We would maintain the moratorium on residential disconnections till the end of the calendar year, and then begin that in 2021, January. That gets us through the holidays. We'll see how the pandemic plays out and gives us a chance for our communication program to work. In January, we would begin with our oldest accounts and get in touch with those customers, let them know that this program exists. We'll be reducing flow to their home. We would suspend the delinquency fee of $55 for the duration of this. We currently have about 4,200 residential accounts that would be eligible for disconnection, but in this case, flow restriction. And their balance is about $1.4 million, or about $325 per account. And obviously, when we talk about financial sustainability and keeping our rates low, every dollar that's not collected from a customer is a dollar that then has to be generated from our other customers. So by working with customers, we offer payment plans for them, and once they get on a payment plan, their service is restored. We're benefiting, our community's benefiting, and they are as well. So we think this is a positive step across the board. In your package, there's a white paper that describes this in more detail. There's some background information, and there's also a resolution for you to consider today. The resolution does four things. It authorized the continued suspension of the non-payment late fees and water disconnections for residential accounts through this calendar year. It authorizes us to resume disconnections for non-residential accounts. All fees, late fees, delinquency fees would apply to those non-residential accounts. And it approves the pilot program for the flow restrictors to begin in January, suspending the $55 fee, but including the 10% late fee for the duration of the program. And it addresses the section of our ordinance that talks about disconnections. I know there's a lot of information here. This has been discussed by the Sustainability Committee, and I have to say staff has done just an outstanding job of taking what was a somewhat abstract concept, getting prototypes made, doing bench testing, doing field testing, putting together what we think is a very sensible and good pilot program from a public policy perspective. With that, staff and I would be glad to answer any questions that may have about the program or the resolution before you.
A question on the non-residential customer disconnects. I assume we're not going to go out and disconnect tomorrow, but essentially, does the communication process start tomorrow to say in 30 days, in 60 days, or have they already gotten that notification?
They've gotten some notifications, but we're not going to disconnect anybody tomorrow. We will go through the normal process of contacting them, giving them an opportunity to get their account current.
Okay.
Our goal is not to disconnect anybody.
Right, but
Our
I
goal
just
is to
want to
get
make sure
them
it's
current, right.
starting tomorrow, but that's just the communication process
Right.
as resumes.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Jim, I just want to clarify, and I think I've asked this before, but for a customer that had a flow restrictor put in, that would be a customer that is not responding, has not set up a payment plan, or is not current. If somebody is not current but has set up a payment plan trying to get their account current, they would not have the restrictor. Is that correct?
That's right. Once you're on a payment plan, your full service would be restored. And our hope is to not have to put in the flow restrictors, but to work with customers. And we're also looking at extending our payment program from 6 to 12 months through this pilot to give people more time to pay, make those payments a little bit lower. Obviously, there are people struggling in the economy, and this is just an opportunity to give them a little bit extra time to pay.
Any other comments or questions?
Motion to approve the resolution as presented. This is Jennifer.
Second, this is Jessica.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I think it's a really good, best fit for the times we have and doing the right thing for our customers. So good, kudos to everybody on the staff and the sustainability committee for coming up with this program. It's really, really good. That concludes our committee reports.
Still got communications.
Oh, communications, that's right. We had a long communications meeting. Mr. O'Grady?
Communications met very briefly on August 12th, and the minutes are attached.
Thank you, Joe. Any old business or closing comments before we go into closed session?
Mr. Chair, it's Rob Zappel. I just wanted to draw attention to the latest executive director's update. And on the last page, it comments on a new intern that we've brought on, this guy named Andrew Kiley. And I would suggest that, any board members who come in contact with him, say hello and make him feel at home. I was very impressed by this program that he's bringing to us, or he's been working on, identifying oyster mushrooms and industrial hemp as bioremediation mechanisms at contaminated sites in Wilmington. To me, this indicates that what I think we know on the board is that we attract and recruit the best and the brightest throughout our community. And I think Andrew absolutely is a part of that. And I look forward to meeting him and also to get a full explanation as to what exactly an oyster mushroom is. So I thought it was very impressive. And as well as all the other information that's been provided, the good work happening down at Greenfield Lake, et cetera. Thanks to Vaughn Haggerty and Cammie for putting out that executive director's report. Those are my comments.
Thank you. Any other comments? We'll have a motion to go into closed session.
Yes, a motion to go into closed session to get legal advice on the Division of Environmental Quality for CFPUA's lawsuit. And
Talking about Jonathan Barfield.
You made the motion.
Oh, okay.
I'll second that. This is Bill.
All in favor?
Aye.
Take a break and